India Sports News. Welcome once again, everyone, for yet another episode as we look towards, or look backwards rather, towards the previous World Cups. And now we are just left with two World Cups, the 2015 World Cup and the 2019 World Cup. Welcome, Devendra Prabhu.
Thank you.
2015 World Cup, I think at that time you were still with the BCCI.
Yes.
And building towards that World Cup, lots of changes in the Indian side from the 2011 World Cup winning squad. A lot of the senior players had been left out by the time the 2015 World Cup started, and the 2013 Champions Trophy was an indicator that maybe India is a force to reckon with in that format. How do you look back at that 2015 World Cup from an Indian perspective? Then we'll look at the other teams.
I think a lot of planning had gone into that 2015 World Cup because if you remember, for about a year and a half prior to that World Cup, we played a lot of cricket abroad in different countries. And most importantly, we went to Australia in late 2014. And I think we played a small tri-series as well before the World Cup. So the team had traveled a lot. They had spent a lot of time with each other. As you said, some of the players had either retired or had been left out. The members of the 2011 World Cup winning team. So, but the new team, the players had spent a lot of time with each other, playing with each other, and on and off the field. So there was reason to be optimistic that we would be able to defend the title that we had won in 2011. Again, because we had played a lot of cricket in Australia. And we had Dhoni in charge, and Virat was rapidly coming up the ranks. He was the vice captain. It was our first World Cup since 1987 without Sachin Tendulkar. So that was a big thing. But yeah, the old has to give way to the new. And what I remember about the 2015 World Cup is that we played very well in the league stages. I think we won most of our matches fairly comfortably, all the matches. And then the law of averages caught up with us in the semi-final.
And that particular tournament, you're right that a new era had started by about, I think, 2012 itself. If you remember, when India was on tour and Dhoni famously mentioned that he's going to rotate the senior players because he's worried about their fielding, especially Sehwag, Gambhir and Tendulkar as well, blasphemous as it may sound. But when you look back at that particular tournament, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli and Shikhar Dhawan had become this holy trinity for India in one-day cricket. And it started somewhere around early 2013, went into the Champions Trophy. And then for a couple of years, the three of them used to score bulk of India's runs in one-day cricket. And that good fortune did not prove to be India's misfortune, as we have seen over the years then.
Yeah, I think it was also in the 2015 World Cup that we first witnessed the after effects, the consequences of playing the IPL, because the IPL was 7 seasons old by then. And many of the big scores, the supposedly big scores that were scored in that World Cup, the 2015 World Cup, they were chased down rather easily. Teams were no longer faced by required rates of over 5 runs, 6 runs and over. So what I remember is that batting had become a lot easier, if I may use that word. The batsmen were a lot more confident. And you mentioned Virat, Rohit and Dhawan. Yes, all three of them were at their peak and they had this knack of doing well. The bigger the stage brought out the best in them.
Absolutely. And Virat, Rohit and Shikhar, all three of them did well right through the tournament, but also India's pace bowlers. And before the tournament, there was a lot of worry about how India would stack up against the other teams because they had lost the Test series to Australia. The previous year in New Zealand, they had lost the Test series and the one-day series. Before the World Cup, the tri-series, like you mentioned, India lost that. And there was a lot of skepticism about how India would perform. But the fast bowlers really stood up. And I think they were the standout performers for India.
Yes, absolutely. Again, they were also part of that IPL generation. So they had played a lot of the IPL. So they had figured ways out in which to resist the dominance of the bat. And I think that reflected, again, the fact that they had played a lot of cricket all over the world in the 18 months preceding the World Cup. That helped.
The World Cup itself, 14 teams, 2 groups. You had likes of UAE making a return to the Cricket World Cup, Ireland coming in, Afghanistan. Both of them are still not the
Test
Test
playing
based
nation, yeah,
nation.
yeah.
Scotland also made it. Ireland created a big roar by defeating West Indies in that particular World Cup. Some of the other teams, what are your memories of those other teams?
I think when I think of 2015, I always feel that everything was rather proceeding along predictable lines because teams were winning fairly comfortably. The only surprise of the 2015 World Cup, when I think about it, is the fact that England did not qualify for the quarterfinals. Bangladesh qualified ahead of them from that group. So that is the only kind of surprise that I remember. And of course, England learned their lessons, and we all know what they did 4 years later. But yeah, that is the only thing I remember. There were no, I don't remember any twists in the tail or anything of that sort. Everything seemed to be proceeding towards a stage where I thought India and Australia would meet in the final. But as it turned out, because of the luck of the draw, they ended up meeting in the semi-final.
The one thing that stood out for me, the few things that stood out for me was Rohit Sharma's batting and India's pace bowling. Also, Wahab Riaz's bowling against Australia, especially against Shane Watson. And that's a spell that everyone talks a lot.
Oh, absolutely brilliant. I mean, I remember several years later, I happened to have a conversation with Sachin himself about, limited overs cricket. And he also, I remember, made a special mention of that particular spell. He said that it was the best, among the best spells of fast bowling that he had ever seen. And it was quite unfortunate that that duel did not end in a victory for the bowler, because I think there was a catch, but it was dropped. So yeah, it was unfortunate, but a great exhibition of fast bowling by Wahab Riaz.
And Australia was a good team at that time, but they were not the fearsome team of late 90s or early 2000s. Yet they seem to be motoring along, except one loss against New Zealand, their co-host in this World Cup. How would that team compare to the previous teams?
It wasn't as strong probably as the previous Australian teams that had won the World Cup, but then they were playing at home. They had that familiarity, and the Australians always have this knack of raising their game when it matters. So once they reached the semi-finals, we all knew that it will take a special effort by the opposing teams to get the better of Australia. As it turned out, they outplayed both India in the semi-finals and New Zealand in the final.
You spoke about England. Just before the World Cup, they decided to drop Alistair Cook, who was their captain, and made Owen Morgan the one-day captain, and that, as later events proved to be a big catalyst in reviving their limited overs fortunes. And them being beaten by Bangladesh, that really was a tectonic shift in their limited overs fortunes, wasn't it?
Yes, that was like a line in a sand kind of a moment, and they learned their lessons well. And when the next World Cup was played in 2019, I think they had done their homework. They had plugged all the gaps, and we saw what happened.
That World Cup is also remembered for a few controversies, and I want to draw your attention to the India-Bangladesh quarterfinal, and became a big issue because the ICC's president, who was a Bangladeshi, Mustafa Kamal, weighed in. Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina weighed in because Rubail Hossain bowled a full toss, and the umpire ruled that it's a no ball. Rohit Sharma was caught in the deep, and it was ruled a no ball. Bangladeshis still believe that they were hard done by on that day.
That is, I think, a part and parcel of the game. So there will always be two opinions. I think we just have to go with what the umpires have decided. I think that is, these debates will go on and on. There are so many leg before decisions or stumpings, and even it is said that DRS is still not foolproof. So I think those debates will go on and on. I think what is important is that the umpires on the field out there, they believed that it was a no ball, and I think even the television umpire ratified that. So we have to just go with that, because if you look at the final victory margin, I think India still won rather comfortably.
Absolutely. And South Africa, New Zealand played the semi-final in Auckland. So South Africa this time didn't have to play in Sydney to bring back memories of '92. But as it turned out, that didn't help matters.
There was another rain interruption, and yeah, that was a great game of cricket. And yes, I mean, South Africa again, one really doesn't know what more they need to do to try and get that monkey off their back, because yeah, they have this something goes wrong in when it matters the most, whether it was 1999 or 2015. But then Grant Elliott just played an innings for the ages. Brendan McCullum, the captain of New Zealand, was in great form, so he set the pace for his team. A great game of cricket.
India's performance in that tournament, even though they lost in the semi-final, there was not much outrage this time as compared to say previous World Cups. Is it an indication that everybody had sort of accepted that this was a good team which had a bad day?
Yes, I think there are two ways of looking at it. One was what you said, that it was a good team, won all its league matches by comprehensive margins, quarterfinals as well, and then one bad day. Unfortunately, that bad day turned out to be the day of the semi-finals, and we ended up losing to the eventual champion. So that was, if that is some consolation, then it was a consolation. Also, I feel that at some point. I think the public, the cricket-loving public, had probably, I wouldn't say gone off ODIs, but their enthusiasm for ODIs, I think, by 2015 had ebbed a bit because of IPL and T20. So ODIs were not as phenomenally popular as they were, say, in the early 2000s. Because of the impact of T20. So probably that also had a role to play, and everything happens for the best. We do not want to see people burning effigies or stoning the houses of players just because they've lost a match. It's a game. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. So I think it just worked out for the best.
The final was a fitting tribute to one of Australia's favorite cricketers, Phil Hughes, who died a few months before the World Cup, and it was an emotional Michael Clarke who accepted the trophy because he was very close to Phil Hughes.
Yes. That was, I think that was a great gesture by the Australian team. The Australians are very consistent in that regard. They value the heritage of the sport, and they lay a lot of emphasis on human to human relationships as well. And one felt good for Michael Clarke because he had his fitness issues also. So it was a great way in which to end one's career.
Brendan McCullum also ended his captaincy on that particular.
But in Brendan McCullum's case, picture abhi baki hai mere dost, because what he went on to do as the coach of the England team, and he's in fact still doing it. That is something else.
Absolutely. And now, as we gallop ahead to the 2019 World Cup, now we've had the 2015 World Cup. A galaxy of stars have exited the stage. We have a new set of stars. India has a new limited overs captain. 2015 World Cup, by then Virat was the test captain, but not the limited overs captain. By 2019 World Cup, India got a new limited overs captain as well in Virat Kohli. They lost the 2017 Champions Trophy in the final. That's usually a barometer to judge where the one-day team is. 2018, they won a Asia Cup in UAE. And in grand style, it was a very good team that won the Asia Cup in UAE. How did you look at the Indian side leading into the 2019 World Cup?
I again thought we are well prepared. We just had the IPL prior to the World Cup, and again the Indian team had toured England in 2018. So they were familiar with the conditions and they knew how to win. People remember the defeat in the final of the ICC Champions Trophy of 2017, but we lost the final, which meant that we had played some great cricket to reach the finals. So they were used to the English conditions. And again, Virat, Rohit and Shikhar were on song. One particular there was a hole which for some reason everybody connected to Indian cricket was in denial, and that was the middle order. I think they probably made a mistake by not investing in someone to take control of the middle order. And in fact, people associated with the Indian team in that time, they have gone on record to say later on that that was a mistake. There had been players who had been in a way groomed. At least one got that impression to handle the number 4, number 5 batting positions. But strangely, those players were not picked for the World Cup. So why they were given so many opportunities was a mystery. I mean, there needs to be some sort of continuity. So apart from that, the team wore a settled look, but there always was a feeling, a nagging feeling at the back of the mind that if, God forbid, either of these three or even two of these three have a bad day in the office, then we are in trouble. And unfortunately, that is exactly what happened in the semi-final.
Again, India was a top-heavy side. मतलब 2015 की तरह ही top-heavy side था. Do you think it is a boon or a bane that these three were performing well at the same time, and we sort of were just going with the flow that we are winning bilateral matches? and sometimes you just lose the bigger picture.
That has been one of the problems with Indian cricket. We don't really tend to think long term. So when the going is good, everybody jumps onto the bandwagon. Okay, but as you said, we were top heavy, but it's a game, so there will be times when you will have a bad day, so you need those the players at the top to be complemented by people in the middle order, and that is something somehow got missed out. It was missed out.
And that particular World Cup, likewise, like I said, we won the Asia Cup and lost in the Champions Trophy final, leading into this 2019 World Cup. Amongst the other teams, England, after that defeat in the 2015 edition, they went on a different route altogether. They said, we'll bat and we'll bat to score up nearly 450 runs. And before the World Cup, I remember there was a big opening, there was a big press conference where all the captains were there. There was a lot of talk about 500 being breached for the first time in one-day cricket. Did you believe that 500 would be breached because of England's style of play?
I think nothing is impossible. There was a time when we thought 400 will not be breached, and it was breached rather easily. And now there have been so many instances of 400 plus scores. I think T20 has changed the mindset of batsmen. So nothing seems to be impossible. So it is definitely possible.
मैं आपसे पूछना चाहता हूं कि आप कुलचा खाते हैं?
कुलचा खाता हूं.
भारत ने भी कुलचा का इस्तेमाल करने की कोशिश की थी. वो पूरे टूर्नामेंट से 2 साल से कुलचा खाने की कोशिश कर रहे थे और काफी बल्लेबाजों को बदहजमी हुई उसकी वजह से, उनकी कुलचा की वजह से. पर उस टूर्नामेंट में भी शुरुआत अच्छी हुई थी. जैसे जैसे आगे बढ़े, वो एक मुकाबला आया इंग्लैंड के खिलाफ जिसमें वो छोटी बाउंड्री का पूरा फायदा उठाया इंग्लैंड ने और पूरा तहस नहस कर दिया भारत को.
एग्जैक्टली. अगेन थोड़ा प्लानिंग में मेरे ख्याल से गड़बड़ हुआ, बिकॉज यू ऑलवेज नीड टू टेक इनटू अकाउंट डिफरेंट पॉसिबिलिटीज. तो हमारी एक पुरानी आदत रही है दैट व्हेन द गोइंग इज गुड वी आर कंटेंट एंड वी से दैट ओके ये चलता रहेगा. तो 1987 वर्ल्ड कप के सेमीफाइनल में जो गलती हुई वही इंग्लैंड के खिलाफ उसी टीम के अगेंस्ट 2015 में हुई. 1987 में भी आपको याद होगा कि जब तक शास्त्री और मनिंदर सिंह they were doing a good job, they were choking up the runs, everything was good. लेकिन किसी ने ये नहीं सोचा कि कोई अगर सामने वाली टीम ने कुछ ऐसी टैक्टिक एम्प्लॉय की स्पिनर्स को न्यूट्रलाइज करने में, तो क्या होगा. सो आई थिंक यहाँ पे व्हेन यू हैव सच अ मैसिव सपोर्ट स्टाफ, उनका रोल बहुत अहम हो जाता है ऐसी स्थिति में. सो कहना पड़ेगा कि द सपोर्ट स्टाफ डिड नॉट रियली डू अ गुड बैकग्राउंड रिलेटेड वर्क इन दैट गेम.
जेसन रॉय और जॉनी वेस्टो ने जो उस दिन किया, उसके बाद उन दोनों को वापस साथ में लाना मुश्किल पड़ रहा है भारत को.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, but that's the game. That's the game. You can't really help it. That's how it goes.
And India, when they were chasing, they just got into a hole. And Mahendra Singh Dhoni and Kedar Jadhav just couldn't get the ball off the square. What was happening there?
Yeah, I mean, पहले तो लगा कि कुछ नेट रन रेट के लिए खेल रहे हैं वगैरह. अगेन वन ऑफ दोज थिंग्स, आई थिंक the only people who can answer this question would be Dhoni and Kedar Jadhav themselves. So dekhte hain, one fine day they may explain what exactly went wrong that day.
But throughout the tournament, before the tournament, everybody had accepted that England is the side to beat because they are the host. World Cup was returning to England after 1999. It was a 20-year gap. England's one-day fortunes had changed. They were playing an exciting form of one-day cricket. Crowds were coming back to one-day games in England. Did you believe that they were the favorites before the tournament started?
No, I genuinely believe that Australia, again, because they had this, they know what it is to win the World Cup. They know how to win the World Cup. And after Australia, I believed India had a chance again because we were used to play English conditions and the players had played a lot of limited overs cricket, both 50 overs and T20. So I believed that Australia and India were the contenders, but England could never be underestimated on their pitches.
And Australia was a troubled side. 2018, we had the whole sandpaper gate, and Steve Smith and David Warner were coming back after a year's ban. There was that cloud hanging over Australian side. Pakistan was not really at its best because Sarfraz Ahmed, constant queries about his captaincy over there. Of the other side, New Zealand were an efficient side. No Brendan McCullum, but Kane Williamson had built a very good side.
Yes, absolutely. New Zealand have this knack of, again, if you look at their World Cup record, it is outstanding. So, one, definitely, when there's a World Cup, you automatically, organically expect New Zealand to make it to the semi-finals at least. You know that this is a team that will excel in the World Cup.
One big controversy that happened in Indian cricket before the World Cup was the selection of Vijay Shankar and that famous 3D glasses, 3D comment by MSK Prasad, the chairman of selectors, about Vijay Shankar being a 3D player, a three-dimensional player. And Vijay Shankar did well against Pakistan with the ball at a crucial time. And then he got injured and he went out of the tournament, and Rishabh Pant came in as his replacement. At one time, India had three wicketkeeper batters in the lineup: Dhoni, Rishabh Pant, and Dinesh Karthik. And the other end, Shikhar Dhawan, who had started well, he got injured, and Mayank Agarwal came in as a.
I think Shikhar Dhawan's injury was probably the biggest blow to India's prospects, because again, Shikhar Dhawan has this habit of raising his game in ICC events. So when Shikhar left due to injury, then it all boiled down to two men, that is Virat and Rohit. And one just prayed that, okay, let both of them continue to have good days. And if one person has a bad day, then the other person should have an exceptional day. As it turned out, both had bad days in the same game, which was the semi-final.
Rohit Sharma, throughout the tournament, sublime form. 4 or 5 hundreds in that tournament? 5 hundreds in that tournament. And there was nothing that could stop him.
Absolutely. Rohit was batting like a dream, and one just felt that he's going to take India to the title the way he was going. But again, mistakes come and bite you. So the fact that the team management and the administration, the selectors had not really bothered about that middle order, ultimately that haunted us big time.
Also, that particular tournament, India went in with just 3 pace bowlers: Bhuvi, Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Shami, plus Hardik Pandya and Vijay Shankar. The plan was that we have 5 seam bowlers, in which 2 are all-rounders. Was that a mistake in your view?
I think that was still a good strategy, because it was a well-rounded bowling attack in my view. You had a combination of pace and spin. It all really came down to the batting, and I still feel that I'm mentioning it time and again that you need your batting order to be settled, and in our case the batting order was absolutely not settled. It was top heavy, as you said. So that number 4, number 5 gap should have been plugged.
You spoke about the 87 World Cup. So there was some similarity in the sense that in one game against Afghanistan, Shami got a hat-trick.
Yes.
And Afghanistan gave a real scare to India in that game.
Yeah, Afghanistan is a team that cannot be underestimated at any point, and limited overs formats bring the best out of teams like Afghanistan, because they have naturally aggressive players. And I think it's a great advertisement for the game of cricket. A team like Afghanistan giving a 2-time world champion like India a scare.
And also Afghanistan, Pakistan, we got the first glimpse of their rivalry as well. It got ugly, didn't it?
Yeah. They have this history of things getting ugly, but I think things will settle down as the Afghanistan team gains an experience. Things will eventually settle down.
Eventually, we got the top 4 sides in the tournament in the semi-final. India versus New Zealand, and the other side was England versus Australia. Now, throughout the tournament, rain had been a factor.
Yes.
We all lost 4 matches in 7 days, and there was a lot of brouhaha about the fact that you didn't look at the weather forecast before scheduling your matches. How are you doing the scheduling and everything? And and by then, social media had gone to the next level. The way it is. How did you look back at that particular whole drama?
Well, I think rain is part of the culture of England. So if memory serves me right, there were reserve days as well.
No, not for the league games, because this particular tournament, as we've spoken about, the format changed again. We were down to 10 teams like in 1992.
Correct. Right, my bad. So yeah, rain is expected in England, but the grounds there have fantastic drainage facilities. So you knew that once it stops raining, within 15 to 20 minutes, it will be bone dry and the teams will be ready to go. So that is something that ought to have been anticipated, because it does tend to rain in England.
How did you look at that format? There was a lot of talk about, not giving opportunities to other teams. West Indies almost didn't make it to that World Cup. At the last minute, they made it through to the World Cup via the World Cup qualifier. 10 teams, how did you look at that?
So there were 2 ways of looking at it. One, that it was the first time since 1992 that there were no groups, and it was a round-robin format with each team playing the others in the fray. of course, the negative side was that the number of participating teams went down. And I think when it comes to a World Cup, you need to try and increase the number of participating teams, give the associate members as much of an opportunity as possible. Now, even the 2023 World Cup has 10 teams. I think the ICC for the subsequent events needs to find a way where teams get many matches to play, but at the same time, the associate members also get that platform to express themselves.
I think that's happening from the next World Cup. So that's going to increase. So we now enter the semi-final stage, the top four teams. For England, it's a big step up after the disappointment of the 2015 World Cup. England, Australia, the semi-final, and India, New Zealand. How did you look at the two matchups?
I thought England, Australia will be a cracker, and probably the Australians will go through because, again, they know what it is to win a World Cup. And I frankly thought India will beat New Zealand, considering the way we had been playing.
And India, the semi-final was played over 2 days because of rain.
Because of rain, yes. Yes.
Did you think New Zealand had made enough when there was a mid-innings break?
You can never underestimate the Kiwis, especially in conditions where the ball is doing a bit, and if it is the World Cup. So there always was that nagging feeling that we need to get off to a good start. If we get off to a good start, then it's a walk in the park, 239, no big deal. But if Trent Bolt and company have other ideas and they give us a scare at the top, then once the top three batsmen go, then who are we left with? And all those fears, came true.
Hardik and Rishabh, they'll still be disappointed with their shots.
Yes, they would be, but they will get another chance. It's not the end of the world for them. They'll get another chance.
Are you a big Mukesh fan?
Yes, I am.
Over Kishore Kumar, you're a Mukesh fan.
No, I'm a Kishore Kumar fan primarily.
Yep, yeah, I've seen that. You're a Kishore Kumar fan. But क्या आप पल दो पल के शायर हैं?
Not really.
नहीं है आप?
नहीं है.
अच्छा. मैं इसलिए पूछ रहा हूँ क्योंकि वो जो मौका था, वो मतलब when Dhoni and Jadeja got together and then finally Jadeja and Dhoni almost got India home across the line, and Dhoni got run out. Everybody zoomed into the cameras and spotted a tear. The whole of India cried, and that proved to be the end of Dhoni as an international cricketer. We didn't know at that stage, and that proved to be the end of India's journey in that World Cup. What do you remember about that?
Yeah, it was very disappointing. One just felt that had basic homework being done when it came to the selection of the team, probably this situation may not have arisen, because say a player like Ambati Rayudu, for example, who was being, at least that is the impression we got, who was being groomed as a prospective number 4, number 5 batsman, and a very talented, very good, consistent batsman, in fact, suddenly being left out, that left that hole. And although Dhoni and Jadeja, even Hardik, Rishabh Pant, they all tried, but it was going to be an uphill task after we lost, I think, 6 wickets before crossing 100. Full credit to them for pulling it back. But yeah, it was very disappointing. And one would have felt that somebody like Mahendra Singh Dhoni should go out in a blaze of glory, maybe by being part of another World Cup winning team. But then not everything happens according to plan in life.
And nobody still knows. 2011 World Cup, he went up in the final at number 4. 2019 World Cup, why did he bat so low down in the order, in that semi-final especially?
Again, a mistake, because somebody with his experience ought to have batted higher, especially with the kind of start that we got to 5 for 3 with Rohit, Virat and KL Rahul back in the pavilion. Maybe they should have sent him at the fall of the 4th wicket, if not the 3rd wicket, so that he with his experience could have settled the nerves. But again, it's very wise to be, with the benefit of hindsight, you can say a lot of things.
So we are done with the India-New Zealand contest. New Zealand reaches the final yet again. On the other hand, you had England beating Australia, the old enemy. And England, with a lot of hope, first time in the final since the 1992 World Cup. And in the final, imagine this is a post-T20 World Cup final. So many editions of IPL and T20 World Cups. And yet in the final, the score put up by New Zealand was not a huge one.
Yeah, because I think England bowled well. They held the New Zealand batsmen, England chased. So the New Zealand batsmen were restricted. It was a good game of cricket in that there was an even contest between the bat and ball. And a great game, just that I thought I was personally disappointed with the manner in which it ended, and I'm sure there were others as well who felt the same way, because You cannot be deciding the winner of a World Cup based on the number of boundaries that have been hit. I think what happened later, which is now that they have decided that if there's a super over the situation and the super over also ends in a tie, then they'll play another super over and they will continue to play super over, still a winner is achieved. I think that is the best way to go about it.
And you spoke about that particular chase by England. At one point, England looked like winning the contest very easily. And then things went bad for them in that contest as well.
Again, I think New Zealand did very well, the New Zealand bowlers, because again, both teams did not know how to win the World Cup. They had never been there before. So it was all a question of the area between the ears, how you manage your head in such situations. So it was a topsy-turvy battle, seesaw battle. And Ben Stokes, of course, kept going. There was a great stroke of luck when the ball struck him and went for four leg byes. But these things are again part and parcel of the game. But it does feel funny when years later, the members of the same team that benefited from an accidental, contact between the ball and the body and the ball going for four leg byes, when they start when they start criticizing an opposition wicketkeeper for following the rules and running an English batsman out, it does feel very funny.
And you say that also that you spoke about the accidental overthrows that benefited England. In that super over, England made 15, if I'm not mistaken. New Zealand also made 15, and that last run out of Martin Guptill is something that no one will ever forget.
Absolutely, absolutely. That I mean, imagine the kind of pressure that would have been on the fielder and the wicket keeper collecting the throw. Absolutely brilliant. But again, I mean, they should have played another super over, because you cannot have it is sad. Like after 7.5 hours of great cricket, then you're counting the number of boundaries that the team has hit. In one day cricket, every run counts, every single counts as well. So you can't really take a decision on the basis of the number of boundaries. And one felt really bad for Kane Williamson. So in a way, I mean, I was sad as an Indian. I was sad when we lost the ICC Test Championship final to New Zealand in 21. But I was also very happy for Kane Williamson because he had his name on an ICC trophy.
So looking back, was that the best one-day match that you had seen?
I wouldn't really say that, because I have been a witness to India versus Pakistan, 18th April 1986 at Sharjah.
Please don't remind.
I watched every ball of that game, and I remember the last over in particular. And I also watched the South Africa 1999 World Cup semi-final. So it's a little difficult to imagine, but it was a great game of cricket, no doubt about that.
So all the talk about the death of one-day cricket, was that a bit exaggerated when you look back at that particular tournament as a whole, and specifically that final?
I think the ICC needs to find a way in which it has to balance all three formats. Maybe when it comes to ODIs, if they come up with a model where there is a lot of one-day cricket in the 18 months preceding every ODI World Cup, and then having less of it in the remainder of that 4-year cycle, I think one-day cricket can still survive. But having said that, ODIs are going to have a challenge with Test cricket on one hand and T20 on the other, two extremes. So the ICC has to really plan things properly. So as I said, 18 months leading into a World Cup, maybe increase the number of ODIs, package it, market that format very effectively, talk about great matches of the past, get the former cricketers on board, So ODIs can still be played and ODIs can still thrive, but there needs to be a lot of planning.
52 years since ODI cricket started. We have yet another World Cup coming up this time, 2023. If you all need tickets, you can log on and find out from your own sources how to get tickets. We don't have tickets. We don't have access to tickets.
Absolutely.
None of us have access, especially for the contest on October 14th, 2023. So 52 years on, is this World Cup going to be the biggest challenge for the format? Because if it doesn't capture the imagination of the Indian public, you don't know what the future holds for this format.
I think it will capture the imagination of the Indian public. India, I don't see a problem with any form of the game. But worldwide, yes, as I said, one-day cricket is facing an existential crisis. But as I said, if it is planned well, if it is managed well, if the number of bilateral series is reduced, if they play only, say, 3 ODIs instead of 5 every series, and I think a start has been made towards that end. I think if a balance is struck between the three forms of the game, one day cricket still has a future.
So let's put him on the spot. Who's the champion 2023?
Well, I would definitely love to see Rohit holding the trophy at Ahmedabad on the evening of 19th November. That would be a fantastic thing. There has anyway Mahendra Singh Dhoni and his team set that tradition of the home team, the hosts, winning the World Cup. So India won on their soil in 11, Australia on their soil in 15, England in 19. So I think Rohit and his team should carry on with that.
So on that positive note, thanks a lot, Devendra, for this series of episodes that we shot together.
Yeah,
Thanks
my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for your time. And India Sports News will be back with more. Please keep liking, sharing, and subscribing this platform. We are right here with all the news, views, and interviews. Thank you.
Thank you.